All right. Now, when will we add the other proposal? When we get to the end?
Department 21, so wherever that's.
Okay. Keep us on cue with that, clerk, please. Thank you. All right, our next proposed line item is the temporary employee on page 10 in the Board of Elections budget. And as they say in the NFL, after further review, like George Bush the first, a kinder, gentler approach has overcome me in the last 15 minutes. So we will allow Mr. Bieniak to speak regarding this proposed change.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
Kinder, gentler, Chairman.
Huh?
Kinder, gentler, Chairman.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Terry.
Almost just like a Democrat, right?
Yeah, perhaps. But as we say in Italian, never.
The line item that was cut by $25,000 was for the poll workers. And we were planning on giving them a raise. They're currently getting paid $10 an hour. So we would like to move them up to 12. And that line is strictly reimbursable. So everything is a chargeback. So the county actually, it's basically just a pass-through. So it's really costing the county nothing. And then if we don't use that whole 100 or 1,000, it'll just return back to the fund balance. So.
Okay. County Treasurer, can you chime in on that according to the Federal Accounting Standards Board?
The only issue I have is the offsetting revenues out of the budget.
Yeah,
Because there's a number of items that gets charged back during the election. And the items that were put in the budget far exceed the offsetting revenue. If you look at last year's budget, they had election service chargebacks of 147.7. They reduced that down to 135.7. But yet they've left their expenses the same. So I guess I could meet with the Board of Elections to try to get a better explanation of
Okay.
what actually is being charged back and what's not being charged.
If that is a revenue, it's simple enough to straighten out.
It's basically pretty straightforward. What we charge all the polling places, the county gets back.
Okay.
And I just want to throw some numbers at you, and I'll be quick. We're having a real problem with poll workers trying to get them. There's such an age discrepancy, and I would like to go through the numbers, and I'll start with 75 or over. We have 108, 75 and over. 65 to 74, we have 137. 55 to 64, we have 98. 45 to 54, we have 42. 35 to 44, we have 22. 25 to 34, we have 7. 22 to 24, we have 0. So we're trying to entice people to volunteer or do their due service and work that day. Obviously, it's a long day, and we felt since the minimum wage is going up next year to 12 something, to give them $10 or $12 an hour would be fair. Okay?
Thank you so much, Terry.
Okay.
I appreciate your time.
Sure, I had a question.
Yes, Chairman Diamond.
Commissioner Bieniak, could you tell me, with the number of temporary employees, do they change based on, like, next year, their primary and so on?
Yes, yeah, but we really don't know. The villages report the elections by the end of this year. All the towns and city clerks, they report theirs by March. So, and then you might have some special, elections. We do have the governors, so that's going to be a major. We have a total of, and I'll get it for you. We roughly have 200 poll workers. So, and we tried to consolidate poll sites, so we use less of them. But obviously, there's a need, every year to go out and find them.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any other questions for the sponsor, Legislator Pertel, or the...
So how is this landing? We're going to count for the revenue? Is this going to be redone for budget?
I can reach out to them tomorrow to find out exactly what the true offsetting revenue is.
We got to provide somebody for the Russians to interfere with here.
Let's call Hillary. She'll help him with her computer. No. Yes, Legislator Patel.
I understand that it's the lack of reported revenue. There's a lot of things that you have no control over. There's a lot of variables that are involved in next year, whether there's 2 or 3 or 4 elections. I don't know that the $2 an hour more that you're going to pay a poll watcher is going to bust the budget. It's a pass-through to the towns. It's a service that you're going to do. If you don't do the service and you don't bill the money to the towns, it becomes a wash. As far as the county budget goes, it's a wash because it's reimbursable. So I understand all the questions, and I appreciate everybody's questions, and I appreciate everybody's remarks. I don't see a lot of downside risk to this.
Does this get charged to the towns?
Yes.
So if they use it, we get it back. If they don't, it stays in the budget, essentially. Is how it's being described. Legislator Sweet.
Last year's actual was 80,730.
Okay.
So I don't know, what do you think the increase of the raise would add to that?
I don't know for sure, but every year is different because of the amount of races. So if you actually look back at our budget, the presidential years are more and things like that. So
And 16.
I just want to comment that Commissioner Smith couldn't make it tonight, but he actually did the budget. I didn't start till July, so he put the numbers in, so I'm a little bit
Right, so the 80,000 was last year, presidential election, big year, a lot of things went on. Prior year, 15 was 46. Year before that was 56, so I don't see the 100,000 trending for the next few years.
It's a legitimate point, Legislator Sweet. Sean, I saw your hand up a minute ago.
Like I said, if they're looking at a $2 increase or $2 an hour raise, if the expenses, like Legislator Sweet was saying, if at $80,000, a $2 raise is only go up to $96,000.
And that's in a big year.
That's in a presidential year.
Right. So you might be looking at max of 55 or 60 maybe on a normal year.
And 75 would seem to be an adequate number under those Legislator Isabel.
Chairman Terry, if you wind up going over that budget to 75, you could still put in for it, and I'm sure we'll be able to.
Good point.
Until you got your money reimbursed, I don't think it needs to set the budget.
Okay.
That's the way I feel.
I agree with Legislator Isabel. I don't want to charge the taxpayers any more than we have to. If it's not going to be used, don't take it from them now.
You would be able to get it, is that correct? If you wind up going over the 75,000, you would be able to get reimbursed, and then we could fund that and then get the money back, correct?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What I'm saying is, say you spend $80,000,
Right.
we give you 75 because that's what's in our budget. You'd be able to go get that money from our reimbursable source, and
Well, it would have to go through the legislature.
but we could
Yeah.
advance you that money.
But we could pass a resolution saying, okay, we're 5,000 short, it won't affect the budget because it's going to be offset by billing. Okay,
So,
now just
Mr.
want to,
Chairman, the message is that we endorse the raise, but we think there's sufficient monies to do so.
yes, that is the message, Legislator DeChessie.
Thank you, Mr. Duchessis.
All right, any other discussion on this line item? Thank you, Mr. Beniak, for making yourself available. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Hearing none, Clerk of the Legislature?
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
No?
Chairman Guyman.
No.
Legislator Headwell.
No.
Legislator Wilson.
No.
Legislator Duchessis.
No.
Legislator Pat.
No.
Legislator Isabel. It's a no.
All right, at this time, I believe we'd like to take a 5-minute recess. Do I need to gavel it?
Go ahead.
At this time, I need to take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's what we require.
Down at Hudson? Were you down at Hudson? I'm gonna be going down there now, so. The next job, South Pearl and Albany. And then after that, Norwich, Connecticut. They asked me if I want to go out there. It's like you gotta leave once in a while. Leave at 1 in the afternoon. Feels funny, feels good to be back to work.
He actually yelled at me when I
How's your brother's doing?
Bobby don't.
You gonna beat Bob?
At his house.
Yeah.
He's got a boat.
It's not that we didn't do
Before he's got the lawn, he's got landscape. He's doing a lot.
They're good.
He got stuff in his hand. We're having lunch today.
Today I had lunch up in Cloversville, at WIZR, so I was kind of good.
Oh.
It's all these crazy kids. So how was this lunch?
7 weeks. Well, actually, I was here. I decided for the lunch.
I don't know the story.
If you don't have it, you can't.
Henry.
I'm gonna change my book now.
Well, it's okay. I don't need this note anymore, do I?
I was waiting to see how you were.
Can you just explain to me quick what happened with the proposed amendments, the ones that passed on the sheet, and what will happen now?
They'll be reincorporated into the budget.
Okay, they don't have to be voted on again?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the budget as a whole will be, but this is,
Yeah.
we're getting into the, yeah, there'll be a resolution of these changes. All these changes that we say yes to, they will come in the form of a resolution before us.
Okay.
But the presumption would be, if we're okay with them here, we're not gonna change our mind.
Yeah.
I lost both those.
I just don't know how much longer it's gonna be, and I got that 9:30 deadline, so I'm trying to ask you now in case I'm like.
Sons are Jamie and Tori.
Okay, and then would that be during the regular meeting or?
I was looking for John.
I mean tomorrow. Okay, not
No,
tomorrow.
that'll be in October.
October 2nd.
What do you got?
We're gonna have a special budget meeting.
It'll be a public hearing.
Okay.
Vote for a resolution.
It won't be on the October agenda, that'll be later in the month.
Okay, and then at that time, will there be like an adjusted budget figures and stuff? Probably.
The executive have a chance to veto things after that.
Okay.
But
But for the resolution, yeah, there will be that.
Okay, I was just wondering what kind of happens after the ones today that you. Okay.
Everyone thinks it's a family name, and I was like, who's signing it? It's Neither.
quite fast. You look at the look, you just get.
I have to. And I'm like, and then I look back and like, I gotta make sure I know what that says.
What's your egg time? That's nuts. So I don't go to work till I see him.
I see him, I'll stop to get him.
About half hour. Yeah, I can walk and smoke a cigar.
So what is it?
I thought you had John Strike returning the old.
And his little boy, actually, there's some healthy dialogue going on here. And, he's 6 now. So we drive down there and watch him play rugby football.
Nice guy.
The kid is good, you know, so it's not gonna be great, but it's your kid's good.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Whistling fast, and it's so much fun. But then they take, he scored 3 touchdowns, just 4 touches of the ball. So they stopped giving the ball, I left. I didn't complain, I understood.
I
guess the point is how it's fast, and everybody tells you about fast. Just turn around, you see them and get on the bus.
What happened to you? Like, I was like, should be
Yeah, well, yeah, I bet you can see the change. Sure. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's a little crazy when you Sarah like,
No, Megan, he was great on
there's some debate on if they got the due date right.
I participated, sorry.
You did?
Yeah. My wife asked me, so I said that. I was probably just talking to you, quick, real quick, because I'm going to be waiting for
all the youth.
There's actually a sad story. She took the chops and whatnot. And then she was like less than a year later, she responded to a fire call.
It's not a different. It's just a couple lines.
Hey, Sean, Cheryl told me that when Martin's offset was at the outreach program.
That's where the money's going in. He was trying to increase the revenue to offset.
Oh, he was, okay.
This is the revenue he's saying he found to offset his thing.
Yeah. I knew that afterwards, so do we need to have that? No. But he did put the 15,000 in.
That's what I said. You put that one in there, call a spade a spade.
Right, you're right.
You're putting a fictitious revenue in if you pass it.
How's the baby? You checking in on him?
My mom just sent me a picture. Maybe he grew.
Little Henry.
That's one of the reasons we train the firemen. That was the only thing I wanted to say. As far as, you know,
This could be dangerous.
Yeah, I I keep drinking that water, we'll be another 5-minute break in another hour.
We're gonna cut through the rest of these.
Come on, Mike.
Well, we got a few stragglers out there, legislator Isabel, maybe we gotta go herd them up. Cheryl's herding them up.
It's only for telling he's looking for someone that can do another.
Thank you for
He's doing things ready for his proclamations for tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw me squirming around in the chair over here.
No, I'm sure you saw me doing it though.
I had a lesson now to teach.
Hi, Barbara.
All right. I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting back to order at 7:48 and 30 seconds. All right, our next line item is confidential secretary. This one being sponsored by Legislator Wilson, found on page 11 under Public Works Administration. Line item went in proposed by the Commissioner of Department of Public Works at 51,526. County Executive proposal of 39,807. So at this time, it appears as though not looking for quite as large of an increase as originally proposed, up to 45,000, an increase of 5,193. Legislator Wilson, would you like to speak on this matter?
Yes, I met with Eric several times over the last few weeks, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody so passionate about trying to help a
Page
fellow
11.
employee.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Our best resource in the county is our employees. And for him, for a department commissioner, department head to take that much time and effort, I'm very much in favor of it.
Commissioner, do you have any, I know you wrote us a little letter about this, but can you fill us in with your passionate plea for this request?
Well, I since earlier today I spoke with Nicole on this as well, and basically what making that move to this line of confidential secretary, I'm requesting a base salary, I guess it would be of 38,993, which is even. I'm sorry. 933. I'm sorry. I wrote 933. Would be the base salary, and then with the longevity that the employee has, and that would is what averages are out to where
The 45,000.
well, it's less than that. It's 44, so it's less than what you'd have requested in the grant.
Nicole, do you have an exact figure, what we'd be looking at here?
I believe it's 43,433.
I believe that's right.
Inclusive of longevity.
But the proposed increase, without my calculator on me here,
What was the number you said, Nicole? The base would be 38,933. The numbers that the commissioner's talking about. If it's the employee that he's talking about, the longevity would be about 4,500. So that would be a total of 43,433.
Okay, so do you want 4,300?
well, we're looking for the increase, but, yeah,
Right, but if I put
4,500, Chairman? Okay. From the executive's proposal of 39,807. There would be a $4,500 increase, correct?
That's what it is.
Okay.
38,
Forgive me for not having my
minus
calculator.
43,433.
Legislator Patel?
But isn't that all longevity?
I'm sorry.
The increase is all longevity?
$4,500 of it would be longevity, and then the other portion of it would be increase in the actual base.
Which is only a couple
From where
$100.
the employee is currently.
So the base was not 38,994. What was it before?
The base of the current employee is in a different title.
So what would that base be?
Well, that's pretty.
Okay, I can tell you.
Yes, and that would be.
Is that in the detail?
We're talking about a $4,500 increase here, though, essentially. I mean, we're splitting hairs.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
While
let's
we're working on those numbers, just to be sure, this is not a member of a bargaining unit, right?
The position she's leaving as a member of the bargaining unit, the position that that person would enter would be non.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The position that the person would be leaving would be non-bargaining, would be bargaining, going into a non-bargaining
Okay,
type.
that's fine. Just so we're not getting a union member a raise,
Thank you.
okay? Not that I'm opposed to that,
Right,
to that notion, but you can't do that.
Yep. Executive Ossenfort?
So, yeah, and I would say, I'm going to preface my statement with saying I certainly understand and agree with Eric's opinion of supporting the employee and what Dan said. The issue that we're going to have here is the difference in other confidential secretaries that will have to be addressed because they will be performing the same functions and be paid less. So if we are going to make this change, we're going to have to look at, in fairness, the other confidential secretaries in the county because you could have different pay for the same work and the same title within a non-bargaining unit. So that is going, and Eric and I talked about this, and it can be addressed, but that's something that we need to be aware of going into it, that it would have a ripple effect on other positions within the county as well.
Legislator DeChessie.
Yeah, but if we do this for one employee, we're kind of starting off on the path that got us into the mess we were in at the end of the last legislature with straightening out the non-bargaining personnel and such. And so over time, there's an erosion of a good plan, and it starts by employee like this. We should look at this in a comprehensive way if we're going to do it at all.
Yes, Executive Ossenfort. Oh, Legislator Isabel.
Yeah, I think maybe we should look it all over and then try to come up with a plan for salary for confidential secretaries. I know Eric would pick a good one, but I'm just saying that we should have a consistency there.
Yeah, and that would be something very easy to put together that we could have to you within a day or two on the total number of positions that are in this title, what they're being paid, so you can get a handle of what the big picture would be, and that would be hard to turn around.
All right.
I would recommend send it through personnel next month. The information. Yeah.
All right, so this line item in and of itself, any other discussion? So insofar as voting on this particular line item, I guess we're ready for one. Clerk? Sponsored by Wilson.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator DeChessie.
No.
Legislator Peck.
No.
Legislator Isabel.
No.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
No.
Chairman Dyman.
No.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
It's a no.
I do want to qualify my no, though. Is that possible? I only voted no because we're going to look at it on a more comprehensive basis. So,
Exactly. That's my
you know,
position.
yeah.
I'm going to support it next time out.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's dead, and you know, but as proposed for the time being.
That's right.
I agree.
I'm willing to look at it certainly as a more comprehensive situation. All right, our next three line items you see are in blue. They're all interrelated. It is, the sheriff was here last week discussing with us the desire to create a deputy sheriff's position. So it would be a position that people could aspire to so that they wouldn't leave the department, so to speak, as we often see happen. As a result, this has been added to this list of changes. And you can see that the salary increase, his proposal, is to create the position at $45,434, offset it by taking 45,434 out of part-time sheriff's deputy line item. And again, I'll direct your attention to these lines. Hang on a minute. Okay. Well, actually, it was never in this. Okay. So the item really, and it'll certainly give Legislator Isabel some opportunity to speak to this as well. I just wanted to frame it for everyone. So obviously, the creation of this position would not require any new expenditure because it would be pulled out of another line item. However, the fringe benefits related to it would perhaps create an added expense. And you need to know that $35,766 in fringe benefits is a worst case fringe benefit scenario under which we have to put this before all of us here. If there was if the person who ended up in the position had a family PPO medical coverage, that would be the largest component of that figure, $21,513 out of the $35,765. So we hypothetically have to approve it if we're going to approve it on that basis, but it may not end up being that number. And Legislator Isabel, from there, please feel free to chime in.
A week ago, I think it was a week ago tonight, we had a meeting, a week ago tomorrow night, we had a meeting with the sheriff here. He brought in some paperwork showing us that in the last month or two, there were probably 2 of our trainees that left us and went to other departments, and they were part-time employees. They went to full-time jobs. You can't keep them because they get trained by us. Now, we do get reimbursed for that, but it does create a scheduling problem, and it does create additional problems for overtime. That's when we came up with the idea of possibly hiring 1 full-time person, which will improve the scheduling of the department and reduce the overtime, and hopefully that's going to increase the efficiency. And I had also linked 2 other resolutions to that, and that it would come up as a positive. We are looking to, actually one other resolution, we are looking to hire an auditor for the legislature. It's a $30,000 position, and I said that fund, we could take that position away. That's the way the resolution here or voted. So I mean, that would make the whole move positive. Taxpayer would save money.
Sean, the fringe benefit line item that would be affected, this was a last minute addition. It would be in personnel?
Be personnel. We'd be dealing with, actually it'd be a number of lines. You'd be dealing with FICA, the retirement line, the health insurance line, and probably the workers' comp line. So it'd be a number of, it would be a combination of 4 or 5 lines.
Okay.
And that's based on a percentage of salary.
Nicole, you look like you want to say something?
No, I was just looking at the numbers
Oh, okay.
on my phone. I think the largest would be to the health insurance, like the
Okay. Any further discussion on these, I suppose, 3 line items? We have to look at it collectively. As I mentioned earlier, some of these we're going to look at collectively instead of singularly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Legislator Jesse.
Yeah, my tendency is to support this, except I don't want to do it at the expense of that auditor's position if that's where we're expecting to get that $30,000. So until I know how that turns out, I don't see how I can support this.
I would feel similarly. I feel it's worth supporting, but not at the expense of that particular line item that we will get to eventually. However, any other discussion? Legislator Patel.
I just think that we struggle with this at the Sheriff's Department for the 4 years that I've been here, with trying to get a handle on the stability of the sheriff's deputies.
a good opportunity. I'd rather see a full-time person that's got more chance of committing to us than a part-time one that's getting trained by us and going to another municipality. So I'm definitely going to support this, and I think that this is a step in the right direction.
And it's certainly capable of being supported when we're ready to vote on it without using the county auditor position as an offset. I mean, adding, you know, potentially another 35,000 in fringe benefits, and that may not end up that high of a dollar volume as well.
Yeah, I don't have any trouble supporting the notion, but not at the expense of that position.
Nor do I. I agree. Any other discussion? Legislator Isabel?
I think we should probably vote on the other lines and then go back to that then.
We could do that, but
Or if you want to make a contingent on the fact that if the auditor position is removed, it's...
well,
I don't think we need to do that.
yeah, I don't think we need to do that. I think we may have support for it on a standalone basis.
We don't need to address where that's coming from at this point.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chairman Diamond?
I would like to see maybe fringe benefits added to the jail facility, the inmates number there, and then they could make the adjustments after that. So in other words, this year on page 15, revenue 2264, if we added the fringe benefit to the 175,000, that would make it 210,766.
What line item, where are you?
Page, so as far as the fringe benefits for the full-time,
Yeah.
I would add that 35,766 to the 175,000 that we currently have projected as revenue.
For the foreign prisoners?
Right.
Okay.
It's line item, revenue item 2264 on page 50.
Yep. Sounds like a potential solution to our situation here. Legislator Patel?
For clarification, you're saying increasing the revenue in that line from 175,000 to 188,000?
No,
To 210,766.
So then he'll have to get a few more prisoners, foreign prisoners. Or maybe not quite as much if the fringe benefits end up being only 20,000.
What's the difference? Put it 200.
Okay, we can do that.
Put it 200.
Go to 200 on that.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that
But the fringes might end up at 25,000 anyway.
Yeah, so just say, go from 175 to 200.
Like I said, I think this sheet's a little deceiving. I think it's a typo. Because you're adding 35,000 in fringes, but you're only increasing 13. Good
Oh, no,
increase should be
I
35.
fixed it, John.
Yours is not right.
Okay.
Yeah, yours straight over.
Yeah, that didn't look correct.
It should be 35 by the way,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
All right, so, yes, Legislator Isabel.
I think it's a move in the right direction. I think that's something we've all been facing over the past few weeks. And maybe it's a start, like Mr. Patel said, but I think it might be a start in the right direction, and they're getting
Sure.
a full-time person working on that.
All right, so on a collective basis then, I think what we're going to be voting on here is the position itself, increasing the foreign prisoner line item from 175 to 200, and offsetting the salary with a deduction in the part-time line item, and offsetting the fringe with the increase in the foreign prisoners. Did you follow?
I follow, I'm not comfortable with it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was a look of confusion because I explained it poorly, or...
Well, I think when the sheriff was here previously, he expressed some frustration, to say the least, with respect to his ability to get those foreign prisoners, as we call them, and I actually recall him saying that he hopes he doesn't get any of them because it's such a frustrating experience for him. And so I don't see how I can support this increase. He's not going to be aggressive in getting those monies. I mean, the drop in revenue was huge. And I think that there are some other reasons, but not the least of which is the frustration that he has with personnel. I'm not speaking for him, but he certainly has indicated to us that he's frustrated with respect to personnel levels and his ability to get that revenue. So I can't support that.
Myself, this evening, I was quite, I got a different vibe from him. When we questioned him as to whether the 175 was attainable, he said, yeah, I can live with that. And so I
read that too.
Increasing it another 25,000, I didn't, as a potential solution, I just didn't feel because, if he put his foot in this, drew a line in the sand and said, no, I can't do that, I need it to be 100 like I put it in for, or whatever, I would have, agreed with what you were saying more so than the vibe I got from him tonight. So I don't know what another 25,000 and foreign prisoners, how much more activity that requires.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, you will recall also in the past that when the sheriff was questioned about the change in the revenue, he said how there was some mixed message with respect to who said what during the conversation between the county executive and the sheriff with respect to how much revenues could be garnered.
Yes.
And so, after the fact, I think that became a bone of contention. So I certainly would not want to be a party to adding $25,000 to what he said he could do after he's left the room.
I would withdraw that.
Okay.
So based on that, if it goes back to the county auditor, I wouldn't be able to support this.
Is anybody in favor of supporting it without an offset, the fringe benefits? Or is that thinking too far outside the box? Do we need to look for an offset?
I don't think so.
We need the position.
We need the position.
You know what I mean?
I think we need the position. I'm willing to go in favor of the position, and I think that the sheriff has come the last few times he spoke positive, and we need to continue with what we've been doing with him, and he's got some good ideas, and I think that maybe having a conversation with him in the near future about maybe increasing that from 175 to 200 can be had, but I don't think we need to worry about doing that this evening while we're working on this position.
I would support that.
Because there's also other ways that he might be able to get us some revenue. I know there's other things that are happening.
Yeah, we need to
Let's fund the position straight up.
Absolutely. That's what I think it's worth doing. All right, so that's the vote that's on the table. Fund the position straight up. Fund the offsetting the position with the reduction of the part-time line item, but the fringe is straight up.
Yes.
That's what we're voting on right now. All right, and clerk.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Aye.
Chairman Dyman.
Aye.
Legislator Headwell.
Aye.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Legislator Peck.
Yes. All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right, our next line item, sponsored by Chairman Diamond, for an increase in office furniture. I want to direct your attention also, though, to a couple lines down below there where it says office furniture twice.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. One is sponsored by Legislator Isabel, and one by Legislator Diamond, and Chairman Diamond. And Chairman Diamond, can you please elaborate on the the machinations behind what you're looking to achieve here?
Sure. It's just a line item transfer from the legislative budget to the social service budget in hopes of reimbursement.
So we know that if we vote on the line item, you know, the first $7,000 line item, I believe legislator Isabel was not in favor of it, then that's why he sponsored the taking it out. But legislator Isabel, are you more comfortable with that under the auspices that if it's put through the Department of Social Services and we get it reimbursed, that it's something that will be offset that way?
I would be very comfortable with that, yes.
Okay. So what we're going to be voting on here is the line item for the office furniture in our budget on page 30. Or excuse me, hang on.
41.
No, well, page 30, the one that's on page 30 is
Yes.
Social service.
DSS. Going into DSS, coming out of our budget and withdrawing legislator Isabel's request to get rid of it. Okay? Sweeping vote here on 3 line items. All right, and since Chairman Diamond sponsored and was the author of this idea, we'll start the vote.
Chairman Diamond.
Aye.
Legislator Hadwell.
Aye.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Legislator Patten.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
No.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Our next line item, page 33, the outreach program sponsored by legislator Kelly. This is really putting the County Youth Bureau money, the money into the County Youth Bureau budget for the fair right here as a standalone, straight up. 5 card stud. All right.
Word.
All right, so any discussion on this?
Nope.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing none.
Legislator Sweet.
Aye.
Chairman Diamond.
Yes.
Legislator Hadwell.
Yes.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Legislator Patten.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
All right, let's move to the next one. Probation assistant, page 37. Not in our budgets. It's something I wrote in here and highlighted in yellow highlighter as a departmental request for $33,559 and being sponsored by Chairman Diamond. Chairman Diamond?
So this position, probation assistant, what would happen, the executive had transferred the alternative to incarceration from youth and veteran services to probation. And you'll notice on page 33, section 7310, 1110, the youth service specialist was eliminated. So the alternative incarceration was transferred to probation. This person would assume the responsibilities of not only that, but in addition, be doing additional work in probation, and it's sort of a 3-pronged thing, and actually handling the increase. As you know, we were the age limit was raised for youthful offenders, so that again also fell in probation. So this position would be doing those 3 things. And if you look at the position that was cut, it was 35,713, and this is
33,559.
right. So it's about a savings of $2,000.
All right, any further discussion on that topic? Yes, Executive
I would also
Officer.
add to that, Lucille did request a full-time probation officer in her budget that I did not include in the budget. And when talking with her about the transfer of ATI to her department, she indicated that she could, absorb that, but she was very concerned about the raise the age change next year. So that's why this request went in.
at that time.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Moving right along, clerk, please.
Chairman Diamond.
Aye.
Legislator Headwell.
Aye.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Legislator Peck.
Aye.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
No.
Legislator Sweet.
Aye.
9.
All right, moving down, the next line item, clerk of the legislature. A proposed increase of $3,000 in the salary as sponsored by Legislator Isabel. Legislator Isabel, would you like to speak on the matter?
I have to speak. Our clerk does a lot of work here, and she had made a request for an assistant, which we did not grant her in the budget, and I'm just feeling that for the amount of work that she does. And I don't know if we have to ask Nicole if I'm going to affect anything else, because everything we do here affects something else, but will that make any problems for us in other areas?
I think that's right, clerk, right? I'm sorry,
I'm the only clerk.
you are the only clerk that's within the district.
And that's it. That's the way I feel.
Can you expound on that, just a different round?
We'll just go up and, from groups, changing groups, and we'll increase the salary, the increment, most likely that would go into would still be the same.
Any further discussion on this line item?
I just had a question. Isn't the clerk under a bargaining unit? Not not elected officials, but there's I'm trying to think of the name of it. The non-bargaining policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Non-bargaining.
So what you're saying is that there's a step available in there for that?
We have to create that salary within the groups. We could add it into one of the other groups that's already established. Depending on the specific amount of the salary increase, it would be dependent on which group it went into.
Any other discussion?
Was there a step already in place for so many years?
We have a non-bargaining contract in place, policy in place. 2018 gives a 1.5% increase to the current salary. 2019 is 2%.
So there's already something in place, we're just jumping out of something that's already in place. So were we talking earlier, we're starting, was where we were starting to kind of we're creating where we said that with this other, we were going to look at it and go from there. I just don't want to get into something where we're just giving percentages and changing percentages for different people with, don't take me wrong by saying where people aren't doing their jobs or doing that kind of stuff, but I just think we're just making a mess.
Okay.
I would just say, it took us like 4 years to come up with a non-bargaining contracts, and now we're, not that I disagree with what Legislator Isabel said, it's just, I tend to agree more with what Legislator Headwell just said. We have 4 years of hard work creating the contract, and now we're going to violate it.
Any further discussion? Legislator Patel.
This is a very hard decision for me. I really support our clerk, and she's been very good at getting what she's done for us. But I have some discomfort with, I don't want to say bastardizing the non-bargaining that we just settled. I may not support it at this time, but I think that we should look and see what other alternatives exist.
Legislator Isabel.
Nicole, can you arrange that into the items you are considering for Eric's confidential secretary? Can you put it in there somewhere? All right, then I would like to see that.
Oh, so please send both to all of us. Okay.
And until that's done, I'll withdraw that and go back and look at it again.
Withdraw?
For Eric and for
Okay.
our clerk, okay?
All right, all set. So no need to vote. Although we did vote on the other one. So let's vote on this as proposed. Let's be consistent.
Yep.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
No.
Legislator Sweet.
No.
Chairman Dyman.
No.
Legislator Hadwell.
No.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
No.
Legislator Peck.
No.
No.
All right, our next line item.
Chairman, I just wanted to say that I support her in that, and that I still support doing it properly with the,
Sure.
okay?
Thank you, Legislator Isabel. I think we all feel very similarly about the clerk of the legislature. She's a dynamo who helps us with a lot of things, but I think we have to go about this the right way.
Never knew that was going to come up tonight, so that's okay.
All right, the next line item, the county auditor position. This has been a topic we've discussed in great detail during our own budget. Any other discussion about it right now?
Chair.
Chairman Diamond.
I would just point out that this is just a funding portion. It doesn't mean that we're actually hiring someone or that it's going to go any further than this. If you go back to the previous legislatures, it was funded the first 2 years, wasn't funded last year, and all this does is fund it this year in case you want to make that position.
Correct. Any further discussion?
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Legislator Duchessis.
I want to reiterate that I think what passes for not on our part as a legislature is just a perfunctory duty that we perform. It's pretty easy to just initial purchase. We're not looking to see if those purchases are made consistent with county purchasing practices. And I think it's a pretty important position. And I know the work that is being done here now is quite competent. You know, I could see with my own eyes. It's got nothing to do with that. It really has to do with the nature of what an audit truly is.
Correct. Now also, to further that notion, I believe there's been discussion about the fact that there's only one person in that department right now. And this is perhaps an avenue that we can begin to have somebody there in the event of an emergency, there to learn the backup of the job. So keep that in mind as well. Any other discussion? Hearing none, this is a joint sponsorship. So,
Should I ask them to vote at the same time? United?
I have a question.
Yes.
Voting yes on this would mean that you leave it in, voting no will take it out.
correct.
Wait. This is to take it out.
No, this is to take it out.
Voting yes on this.
Oh, to take it, I'm
it
sorry,
out.
yeah, I'm sorry, correct.
Voting
my
no
mistake.
on this would to leave it in.
Leave it in, correct. Two negatives do make a positive here. Okay.
Okay, I'll start with Legislator Isabel.
I'm going to vote, I strongly believe that position is not needed, so I cannot vote for it.
Legislator Patel.
Wait,
If you want it taken, if you want it left the way it is,
you have
or
to
taken
say,
out of the budget, you have to vote yes.
correct.
And I vote yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Legislator Dyman.
No.
Legislator Hadwell.
No.
Legislator Wilson.
No.
Legislator Duchessis.
No.
Legislator Peck.
Can I sing it?
No.
Okay? No. All right.
No.
Yes, later.
Emphatically, that's all. All right, our next line item. Senior account clerk typist, page 46. In the Public Works Department. and being sponsored by legislator Wilson, has been described to us by the Commissioner of Public Works in his memo, I believe. Yes, Eric? Yeah, there it is. Anything else you want to add to it? Any discussion you want to add to it?
The other line goes with it, it's the next one down.
Oh, okay, that's correct. It would be partially offset by eliminating the account clerk typist. So the net effect looks like it's going to be about $3,000 or so. Commissioner Mead, would you like to speak emphatically about this again? At all?
So basically, you know, for years, that was the title of the position in the department, was the senior account clerk, and then it was, prior to me getting there, I guess it was pushed out to an account clerk typist, I believe it is. I'm still trying to learn all these titles in the last 9 months. But what I'm trying to do is prepare for succession in the next 4 years.
Okay.
I'm going to have people retiring, so I'm looking to leave, not funded this year, but leave that account clerk typist in my department, so that in a few years, we have that ability to fill that position, to start training new employees in the department, because I'm going to be facing probably 2 people retiring out within a year of each other. So I'm basically just gearing up for the future.
All right.
Hoping to do with that.
Any other discussion? Legislator Patel.
Could you translate that for me?
Translate it?
So,
I haven't, there's a position right now for the one title.
so you have, right now you have an account clerk typist.
Correct.
And in preparation for moving up to fill a position that you feel is going to be vacated in the next 4 years. 4 years.
Of secretary, if in fact that position is created.
So you want to change this account clerk typist to senior account clerk typist.
Correct.
Which will, when I translate.
And over the next couple of years, she's going to be training more on what the confidential secretary does as far as personnel issues, payroll for my department.
So what's the separation now between the account clerk typist that we're doing, you'd like to do away with? What duties change to a senior account clerk typist?
The duties that she's going to be, like I said, learning more of the payroll and the personnel and of it as she goes. And then the goal is to, in another year, to fill that account clerk typist to do the receptionist duties, so that everybody moves up as people retire. You know what I mean? Is hopefully.
Well, won't they move up anyways?
Not necessarily.
Opportunity opens up.
So the title will be established and the person would be provisionally appointed, and they would have to take a test and score in the top 3 to accept the senior position. So all the commissioner's doing is creating this position, indicating the more responsibility, and then at some point it will be filled.
So you're not filling, but you're doing away with the account clerk type.
Right, so she could be provisionally appointed, but there's no guarantee that she's going to be that
So
person.
she's going to be funded out of the line for senior account clerk typist, but not getting senior account clerk typist. Okay?
Maybe Nicole can explain it.
Please,
better than I
Nicole.
can.
Please explain.
Real quick, if you wanted to go from a account clerk typist to a senior account clerk typist, there's 2 ways to do it within a bargaining unit. You would do it through negotiations and changing the contract and the titles that are in the contract, or you do a desk audit. Similar to what we've done, there were some changes to some positions in the DSS that were not the subject of any changes this year, but they will not take effect until a desk audit is performed by Nicole and it has been proved that the employee is doing those increased duties that would justify a different position. My suggestion would be, if you would like to do this, that's fine, but from now until the end of the year, Nicole would need to perform a desk audit to verify that the actual work duties are changing, and that it is more along the lines of a senior account clerk typist than a regular account clerk typist. Until then, we are just going based on Eric's word, which I tend to believe wholeheartedly all the time. I'm not saying that. I understand where he's coming from. But the procedure we should follow, as we are following in other departments, is to perform a desk audit. It does not mean we can't vote for this, but we have to do that by the end of the year. And if it proved out, we can move forward. If not, you'd have to move back to the old position. Did you get that?
You can also, if we don't do anything, still perform a desk audit, correct? And next year, if we find that this is what we want to do, this is not earth shattering, it's $3,000, we can make a transfer into that line from something then.
Right, and then if the test hasn't been ordered, the person would be appointed provisionally until such time as the test was available. That person would then have to take the test, score in the top 3.
Can we schedule that test
They're
alongside of your
scheduled
test?
regularly, so there's one every year.
I support your plan, I don't know that I support the process.
Executive asked for it.
I just lost my train of thought.
Okay.
But,
It's all right. Legislator Headwell, did you want to say something?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's vote on these in tandem. And I know there's a few people out there that might like that word.
Legislator Wilson.
Yep.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
No.
Legislator Peck.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel.
No.
Legislator Patel.
No.
Legislator Sweet.
No.
Legislator Diamond.
Yes.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
It's a no.
Thank you. All right, next line item, page 47, and we're getting down to the end of the wire here. Construction and maintenance supplies. Line 5110, it's in the maintenance and roads and bridges here. Looking for an increase of $50,000. Eric, any insights or anything you want to talk about there?
No, just that's, the maintenance that's my main maintenance line for roads and bridges.
And you felt
Snow
750
removal out of the
wasn't quite...
bridges in the wintertime,
Okay.
whole guardrail,
Okay,
stone removal, crack sealing,
all right.
mowing to the contract, or, mowing to the...
Looking for a little more breathing room. Yep, looking for a little more, yep, okay.
Culvert pipes and drains.
Any further discussion on that one? Hearing none, we're ready for a vote.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
No.
Legislator Peck.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Chairman Diamond.
No.
Legislator Headwell.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Passes. And last but not least, page 49, under the machinery fund, motor vehicle equipment. Eric looking for $60,000 for a truck in order to, create a rotation here where so many vehicles are freshened up every year so that we don't run into any types of deferred maintenance that we have to do to keep vehicles running. So, Eric, any more elaboration there?
No, just basically what I went over earlier, I'm trying to get all of our equipment on a rotation basis, as You know, the trucks get to a certain age, you know, the value of that goes down on them, the increase in expenses to repair goes up. You know, and after an auction we had this year was about 18 vehicles and it netted a total of $20,000.
Okay.
With all the auctions. I'm trying to get the town, or the county, basically on the same page as I've done with the town of Florida over the years, as far as after a few years of service to the county, we look at posting an auction, the value you get out of the truck. We'll eventually see these numbers go down, and then hopefully when we're bonding for equipment in the future, as we did this year, $500,000, those bonds won't be as high. You know, the life expectancy of a dump truck is 12 years. Obviously, I can't buy a dump truck with, I don't remember if I requested the full 60 or just 30. If I,
It's all 60.
60. They did use put it in for 60 years. You know, but it's, when I have a vehicle that's sitting on the lift more than it's sitting on the road, you know, going on the road.
What use is it to you, correct?
Exactly. And you know, what's the county gaining out of it when it's a $5,000 or $10,000 vehicle and you're putting $8,000 in repairs into it throughout the year? It's not an $18,000 vehicle, it's still a $10,000 or less vehicle.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Legislator Patel.
Sure, 60,000 is not a lot.
No.
What do you have in mind? I mean, where would you be if we don't approve the 60,000 as opposed to where would we? And I understand the concept here is to have some residual value in our vehicles when it comes time for auction. I don't know that we'll ever warm up to that concept of not running into the ground, but I understand the concept. So the 60,000 make or break, what's it going to do? Is it going to be
my budget?
Yeah, it's going to be a one-ton dump.
No, actually it was for, the equipment I had in mind was one buildings and grounds truck and replacement of the other loaner vehicle that we use for the nurses rent it. All other departments come to us for rental of vehicles. And right now we have 2 minivans, and you put them on the lift, you can look straight through the wheel wells up into the inside the vehicle. You know, they're in poor shape. So with the equipment plan this year, I've replaced one, a used one that was turned in off the lease. We hope to have that on site here in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, through the equipment auction, I think we got it off the lease for $15,000. And that vehicle is used for when people need, you know, elections needs a vehicle or something.
So it's more in line to supplementing the fleet of the rest of the county as
Correct.
opposed to a dump truck or a...
Correct. And then I have one other buildings and grounds truck that is rusted beyond belief and needs a lot of repair, so it's a vehicle that our cleaners use for hauling garbage and equipment around, so that's what the
Executive asked for.
Just at a little positive note, I will say we are in far better shape now than we were 3 years ago. But I will agree with him, with these vans are just atrocious. But, you know, we have been making some good progress. We're almost there. So
Legislature Sweet.
Maybe Sean can answer this question. Back in 2015, we budgeted $650,000 that line. Was there, did we buy a bunch of equipment that year?
Yeah. Actually, if you want, I can go back and give you the rest of the budget.
No, I was curious why it was $650,000.
That was a one-shot deal, because we got some one-shot revenues, so like that.
Kind of what I thought. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this line item? Hearing none, clerk, please. Wilson sponsor.
Legislator Wilson.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
Legislator Pack.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel.
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Legislator Sweet.
Yes.
Chairman Diamond.
Yes.
Legislator Hadwell.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, just one last note. I just do want to make the statement that pursuant to section 7.03 of our charter, that we have met our requirement of submitting the budget and finance report on the county executive's tentative budget, and we did that on September the 12th, before the required date of today, and that was that letter that you saw last week. Any other items anybody would like to discuss? Yes, Legislator Sweet.
After going through this year's budget and looking at last year's AUD, I want to go back to what Legislator Jesse said a month or so ago, that getting into the habit of putting fund balance, appropriating fund balance into our budget is a bad trend. And it's difficult not to do that to balance the budget.
Almost impossible.
Other than cut.
Yeah.
Last year, appropriated fund balance was $3,385,000. Ended up appropriating total $4,001,000. Okay. So
in 16.
In 16. So over from 2014, we started with a fund balance of 11 million, almost 12 million. 2015, 11.8. 2016, 9.8 or 9.9. The trend looks like we're going to be 9-something by the end of this year. With a $3.8 million appropriation of fund balance, and if we go above and beyond like 16, we're going to be in the $5 million range for fund balance. It's a bad place to be.
No question about it. You did also, though, point out that you recognize the fact that it's a virtual impossibility to balance our budget without using the fund balance and without making cuts, correct?
I agree with that.
And that's the position,
it's a position that we're in with this budget.
Yes.
You know, I don't know where we're going to continue to get revenue from after that fund balance is at that point. So it's just something that we all need to really be cognizant of, because we are on a downward spiral.
I mean, as we did discuss on the 10th, and once Legislator Chessy brought this up, certainly reiterated the fact that we have to be ever mindful of it, as you are saying right now. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a historian, but from what I understand, when the legislature was created 3 years ago, it inherited a fund balance of about $14 million.
I thought that was the number, yeah.
And and that was as a result of quite a large tax levy in order to do it. Obviously, we're in a position this year where, certainly we're looking at a 2.44% increase, which may adjust here a little bit as a result of these. Hopefully this year turns out in such a way where we don't use, I mean 17, as much as we have projected, since sales tax is tracking higher than we had anticipated. And Sean, that reminds me, I think it's time we look at a dashboard. I mean, I haven't seen one, and I know we weren't going to do the departmental reports, but we were going to take a peek at the dashboard. So probably not a bad idea for us to, for our October budget and finance meeting, to have another dashboard to see how we're tracking with our claims being submitted through the DSS, how that sales tax is tracking, and some other line items. But getting back to the fund balance, it's there to be used. I mean, we're not in an easy situation here, Legislator Sweet. I mean, none of us are. I mean, this is the hand we're dealt, and we have to be mindful of it. It's something that, crosses my mind quite a bit, being the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, that it's not an endless supply of money. And, the only solution, the only solutions available to us are to exceed the tax cap or cut positions and services.
Well, I just felt that, sometimes having the information out there is a good thing.
Yeah.
Just to keep everyone thinking what can we do?
And you're right about that. You're very right about that. And
I'm not trying to put the blame on anyone.
no, I don't think any of us interpreted it that way. I think you're just trying to continue our awareness, and I think we have to be ever mindful of that. And but that said, we got to roll from year to year, and we got to manage this county along with the county executive and his staff, and it's the hand we're dealt, and we just keep an eye on it. I mean, there's little ways to do it. Certainly, one of the steps that we took throughout this year is trying to make sure we don't invade it any more than it was originally projected to be used. That's one step in the right direction. This year, our budget has us using not a ton money less than last year, but it's using an appropriation from the fund balance that's less than it was last year, and that's a step in the right direction. And I think we got to take it in increments like that. And I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that. Chairman, you always have words of wisdom.
Well, I mean, along the legislators' sweep's point, the original legislature started with, I think, a $14 million fund balance. Now we're down to 9. So through the 5 years, we've actually used $5 million in fund balance, even though more is appropriated. But with these changes, I just wanted to throw out that I would like to keep obviously under the cap, I would like to keep the same amount of fund balance we originally talked about, and maybe adjust our effort or our conservative estimate on sales tax to zero out any changes that were made here tonight. And I realize there's a ratio of for every 5 cents in sales tax, or every 3 cents, we have to use 5 cents.
Executive Ossoff.
Just one final point. We will have also the monthly report for you for October, along with the dashboard.
So it'll be through the month of September for the October meeting, or
For the October meeting.
so it'll be through 9 months.
In that memo I sent out, but I was planning on doing that, so we'll have the dashboard from Sean, and I'll have that.
And the departmental reports from. Okay, great.
Chairman, so I did the running worksheet with a couple of small changes. You are at $294,000 increase, $294,325.
On top of
325?
$294,325. But
Can you send that out to all of us
Yeah,
tomorrow?
that's with not knowing the exact numbers for the chamber. We put in the 70,000.
Right. That'll be close. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to join in on that on the fund balance discussion.
Yes, sir.
Because there's a couple things here, not the least of which is we talked about the original amount that we were working with, going back to when the legislature was established. I think it's that we have to take into account the effect that high gas prices had on the fund balance, because that's where a lot of that money was generated, that sales tax revenue. When gas prices are high, then counties make out because of the taxes.
Correct.
The other factor here, and I think what I'm hinting at is that I don't think gas prices are going to stay at this level forever.
No.
The other thing to consider is that the unintended consequence of the tax cap is that really it behooves the legislature to butt right up against it when they're creating a budget, because of the negative impact it would have on the succeeding year's budget in tax cap, rather, if you didn't do that. So a lot of these decisions are just kind of made for us as we go.
That's true. That's a very true statement. And, obviously, I don't know about this strategy, but, probably the county treasurer would shoot me if he, but speaking out of school, but, maybe it may be prudent, and I don't know what act of God we need to do, to implement this with, but, I mean, I know it's obviously a great story for the newspapers or whatever that we're within the tax cap, and it's great for our constituents as well. But maybe one option is to to consider in future years is trickling over it a little bit. I mean, and you know, building a little bit of fund balance, you know, and rather than get into a situation like the city of Troy that ended up having a 28% tax increase, you know, because they depleted everything. And I don't know if that's even workable. I mean, and I certainly wouldn't even want to, you know, it's certainly not happening this year, but it's a consideration I would think. And is that I just would like to put that on the table to the administrative and executive arm of the government. What are your feelings about that type of strategy, you know, in the future?
My comment to that would be, and to extend to Legislator Jesse's point, is not only is the cap and the decisions before us, now also additional funding has been tied to staying under the tax cap. So if you do actually go over it, you could jeopardize additional state funding that we're using.
So that's not a good strategy.
So, like, for example, the shared services panel, we could qualify for about $100,000 in revenue, but if you go over that cap, that revenue's gone. And there's additional programming in DSS as well that's tied to that tax cap. So you say your hand has been made for you in a lot of ways.
It has.
It has.
Plus, the residents wouldn't get their rebate check from the state if we over the tax cap, which generally covers any increase in taxes.
It was just a conceptual thought so that, as Legislator Sweet said, if, you know, 5 years down the road, if some of us are still here or not, we're not forced to come in with a high number just to make, you know, to replenish fund balance. Yeah, yes, Legislator Patel.
Not to belabor the conversation, but, you know, we often just look a year in advance with our budget. I really think that we have to start looking beyond 1 year. We have to understand what additional revenues we're going to have or not have, which include buildings, properties coming off the pilot programs, the tobacco fund, where that is. And I think we really need an ongoing target that goes out beyond our 12-month budget. And it's hard for us because we're always lagging behind in the sales tax information. We're always lagging behind in everything. And we're preparing budgets 3 months before the beginning of the year. So, you know, I don't know how to go about it or who to charge with doing it, but I'd like to have some projections that are ongoing so we understand what the future holds for us.
Good point. I guess tough to predict. I mean,
well, some of the things that are not hard, things coming off a pilot, you should be able to know. Tobacco settlement, you should know the longevity of that. I mean, if we're aware of that, you know, if you lose, and I don't know where that is, but if you lose that somewhere down the line, you lose the tobacco money, it's $1 million. That's a big hole to plug.
sure.
But on the other hand, if you're understanding the trends of the casino money, you're understanding where the pilot programs are, you can make, with more confidence, make these projections of using fund balance. And I'd certainly feel more comfortable with that than not.
Point well taken. Any other discussion?
Can we go home?
Hearing none, Budget Finance Committee adjourned at 9:03.